So the first thing we're going to do before we start our installation is double check to make sure that our subfloor is properly prepared before we start our install. I'm going to take and fill all the joints. We want to make sure all the joints in the subfloor is smooth. We want to make sure we don't have any screws or nails protruding up out of the surface. You can see that was sticking up just a little bit when it got edged down. It is sanded off flush now. So we wanted to make sure, again, there's nothing protruding or there is no high joints or anything like that. You want to have your floor absolutely as level as possible. If you do have a nail head or something sticking up, simply knock it down with a hammer. If your joints are high, they will need to be addressed. You can either sand them down with a palm sander, a belt sander, or if you're professional with your floor edger. We want our product to stop right here, center of where the door closes, because the door is going to close right here. So our vinyl plank is going to stop right there, okay? There's going to be carpet out here, so that's all good. We're going to take our cut all the way to this point right here is where we're going to make our door jamb cut to, okay? So to do the door jamb cut, I have an oscillating tool here, and I have a scrap of the flooring that I'm going to use. So I'm just going to lay this right here on the floor, making sure there's no garbage or trash underneath of my vinyl plank so it sets nice and flat on the floor. And then I'm going to use that as a guide and just let my blade go right directly over top of it like that. Since we got baseboard here and we need expansion, I'm going to actually cut over into my baseboard about a ½ inch or an inch or something like that, just as I'm cutting my door jamb. Okay, there we go. Now as we're working our door jamb underneath here, that's going to give us a little bit more space right by our baseboard. Also, to stick this under here. This don't matter how pretty or anything it is, because we're going to have trim that's going to cover about 3/4 of an inch. It's technically 5/8 of an inch up onto the base. Okay, we got a 5x6 bathroom that we're working with right here. It's 6 foot this direction, 5 foot that direction. This right here is my bathtub. This is the tub that I'm working up against. Obviously, we have the commode drain and our vanity cabinet that we're going to be working around. So it's not super important on something this small to be balanced. What I mean by balanced is say starting off with a piece over here and having end up with the same size piece back here, because this is pretty much going to be hid with the commode, garbage can, plunger, whatever that you keep in your bathroom. It's mostly going to be covered up, but for the sake, I'm going to do it just to show you guys how to get a balanced room, okay? Okay, so what I want to do is find the center of the inches. Since we're in a small area, I'm going to use inches, and we are 57¼ inches wide. So I want to go to the center of that. Now, I'm no genius, so this is usually how I will find out my center point. I'll take and put the end of my tape measure on whatever number I'm on. 57¼ right there is where I have the end of my tape measure. And then I can go right up here, and whatever number is directly on the tip of that, that's going to be exactly half. And that is 28¾ of an inch. Should be half of 57¼ So I'm going to mark out 28¾ on my floor here and give me a center point right there. And I will do the exact, well, let's double check ourselves first. Okay, so that is it. 28¾ that direction. 28¾ that direction. 28¾ that direction. I'll get me a line right here. I want to take and use one of these planks as a straight edge and just get me a line on the floor here for center. Put this right on my marks. and just get me a line right across the floor and extend that all the way across the room. Okay, now we got our center reference marked in the center of the room. So to simplify the math, I actually cut me just 4 or 5 pieces off of a plank right there. I'm just going to put these together and put them right. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want to do this in a 12-foot room or nothing like that because you'd have so many pieces cut. But in a small room like this, don't forget your spacer because you got to have a 1/4 inch space. Okay, so I got my pieces put up here, 5 pieces, and also I have a 1/4 inch spacer right there. Now, right here on my mark, I'm going to take and put me a mark. I'm going to flip this around, and it should be the same on the other side as well. So we're going to check out this side as well. Okay, you see that? So that's exactly on the mark there. Now I can take and measure from this plank to my mark 5 inches. That's the size of piece that I need to start out with on my wall, and then I'll end up with a 5-inch piece as well, okay? Just to simplify everything so you ain't got to do all those 8ths and 16ths. And I'm going to go ahead and get me a line now, 5 inches off the base, 5 inches off the base, and that's going to be where I need to start. Okay, now I've got a nice starting point here. Let me go ahead and don't forget we got to have our spacers here. Okay, so I'm ready to make my first board cut. I'm going to stick my spacer at the end of that, push it all the way tight against it there. So I've got my first piece lined up with my row that I need right there. I have another plank. I'm going to go ahead and turn it around backwards and push it all the way up against my wall over here. Now this is a marking point right here. So we have about approximately a 1/4 inch tongue right here on the end of these. So I'm just going to make my mark right at the edge of that tongue. If I cut it there, I'm going to have this much expansion on the opposite end of my room. I'm going to go ahead and set my square on that and give myself a score mark. Okay, now snap it right off and hook this together, and you'll see with that process right there, I now have a 1/4 inch expansion on that end right there as well. Okay, so now I'm going to line up my mark that I've got there. I want it dead on my mark, nice and straight and everything. I'm going to take one of the scrap pieces that I had, and I'm going to use this as a scribe board, okay? And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. First off, I only need a 1/4 inch of expansion on the edge of it. So this little lip right here on the back, I'm going to cut that off. It's only about 1/8, but that's going to cause me to have about a 3/8 expansion. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, and it'll just give us that much of a closer fit on my cuts. Okay. All right. Now I got my planks all lined up. I'm going to go ahead and mark out everything that I've got here, okay? I'm going to take my piece now, butt it right up against the edge of my baseboard. This is on my line, and I'm just going to mark it right there using this as a template, okay? All the way down until I get to about right here on the baseboard. I want to go in right there, okay? Now with that being done, I can come over about right there is where I want it to go underneath there. Get me a little mark here, and you can see how far I'm under there. Here to here, I want to completely get rid of this distance here, okay? So I want to do that. Get me a little mark right there. Then I can take it. I want to scoot in because I want this to go under. So about right there. That is the distance of the tongue. You see right here? That's the distance of the tongue. I want to put me a mark right there, okay? Now I can take and connect those two. That's going to go all the way down. That's going to be my cut mark for that piece. I'll come over and do the same thing on this other side. Okay, so with this one, it goes all the way underneath there. So that's going to be super nice. I can start out here, giving myself that much, and then I'm going to bring this over to there. So right here. So that's not much at all. I can just basically shave a tiny bit off of that, and we're going to be good with that. That's telling me that whenever I built this, I didn't get my doorway straight. I am now going to take and cut right along my marks that I placed there. I want to just use my knife to shave this off right on my mark right there. This is not that hard of a product. So you can see I just shave it off there really easy. This one right here, I'm going to score it with my knife right on my mark. By the way, these blades right here are the boss whenever it comes to vinyl plank and such. These are called concave blades, and I'll leave a link to these in the description. These allow you to see your mark as you're cutting because they have that arch on them. They're not blinding your view when you're making your cut like this. I'm just taking and scoring right down on my mark that I just created. Okay. So because this is such a skinny piece, a lot of these will score and snap off easy, but because it's skinnier, it is kind of rough on your fingers. So I'm just going to use a pair of pliers to bend that backwards right there, and it's going to snap right on that cut that I just put there. You can see where I broke it. There is a little excess of the backing sticking out down through there. That will happen sometimes whenever you're scoring and snapping. So I want to take and clean that edge up so that it's straight down, a straight off cut. I'm just going to clean that edge up a little bit with my knife. Let's put this back together and see how she fits in there. Okay, put us a 1/4 inch spacer there at this end, and we're going to do a couple more right down this wall right here. By the way, this is a little Roberts installation kit. These are really good for the DIY person. If you're just doing something small like this, this is going to have everything you need to install your vinyl plank. It comes with spacers, a mallet, a tapping block, and a pull bar. So everything you need all in one little package right there. Okay. So that's exactly what we wanted right here. Actually, I need to cut that for just a second there. The part that cut off of this, the opposite end that cut off of this, I'm going to take here and use for a starter right back down on this other end. Again, I want to take and put me a spacer down there. I always want to keep it. It's very important. Some people think it's not that important. It is extremely important to have proper spacing. So I want to stick me a 1/4 inch spacer there on the end of that plank and slide it over till it touches the wall and lock it into position right there, okay? Again, I'm going to turn my board around backwards that I'm using, push it flush up against the wall right there, and mark it in the same spot I did a while ago, right to the edge of the tongue. The end needs to go in first. You always want to install your end first and then lay it down flat. Now we're going to work on our long joint right there. Only time you need to vary from that method is if you're doing a drop lock method. We're not going to get into that right now because we're not dealing with that. Raise it up at a slight angle. Tap it right together. Okay. All right, we're just going to repeat that same process. So this is not going to fit in there. We're going to have to make some cuts on that. So what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and back this up and get me a complete row put together on my existing floor. I'll put my spacer in there and butt it all the way back. I'm just going to act like I'm sticking it right together, right where it needs to be. Okay, so I'm going to take and use my tapping block just to make sure that I push it all the way up against the floor that's installed, and I'm going to slide my row that I just put together right up against my block, and that's going to ensure that I am directly on top of my previous row. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm going to take my scribe piece. Let's see here. Take my scribe piece that I trimmed the back off of it, and I'm going to use it to make this notch cut right here. So if you'll look over on this other side right here, I want to leave about a 1/4 inch right over here of my cabinet. Just going to put me about right there, and then I'm going to trace a line all the way down the front of this here. Got a little squiggly there where I hit that screw. Okay, now I can make this cut, excluding that, make this cut, and it's going to fit right in there perfect. Okay, get my spacer down on the end for me there. When I get my spacers in, I want to take and push it all the way against that wall down there. Okay, this is where your pull bar is going to come into play. You can use a pry bar. It might be able to work for you. If not, this little pull bar right here on these boxes is going to be perfect for that right there, okay? If this won't work, okay? I can already see I'm going to need to get my pull bar out. Well, it actually worked. Okay, so by using that method to cut, you can see that I've got proper expansion all the way around the perimeter of my cabinet now. Okay, so right here, this board is long enough to get this all in one piece. So I want to take and mark with this piece here just to get my 1/4 inch. Putting my spacer on my end, push it all the way up against my wall, or my tub rather. This is my tub. Okay, now we can see what we got here. Well, I'm just going to put marks right on the edge here. Now your commode covers quite a bit, so you don't have to be too dramatic about this, okay? I'm going to give myself, again, about a 1/4 inch on both sides, and I want to take and put it directly on top of my next piece here. I'm going to use my scribe board again just to get that nice 1/4 inch expansion on the front. So right to there. What I did, I butt this right up against my flange. See that? It's touching right there. And then I'll put me a little mark right at the end of that right there, okay? Now, without being all dramatic or nothing, I'm just going to take and make this circle by hand just as long as I end that circle on that mark right there. I'm going to be pretty good. I'm doing little short marks just so that I can keep it halfway circular if I need to. I'm going to take my knife again, just the same thing, and go right around that circle on my mark. May have to do just a little trimming on this, but that'll be okay. All right. Placing my palm, I'm feeling where it needs to be. Right there. Feeling my score mark. Right there. I got kind of an outline. I can already see the outline from the light where my break is. So I'm going to take and cut the pad right around on that line right there. Okay, again, I'm going to take and clean this edge up. Vinyl plank is fairly simple as far as tools needed to do it. You don't necessarily need a whole bunch of tools to do it, which makes it really nice for people to do this stuff themselves at home. Okay, let's see if we're going to need to do any further trimming. Okay, I think I'm completely okay with that right there. Going to be just fine with that. Okay, I'm going to take and measure from my cabinet to the tongue of my board since I'm not able to get a full board in here. That is 11.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead and get my mark here now, okay? So what I want to do is the same thing. Get my 1/4 inch on that side, 1/4 inch on that side, and I'm going to go directly on top of this existing plank again, just like I did a while ago, making sure that I'm level with my bottom plank. And I'm going to use another scribe right here. This is going to give me my depth that I need to go by right there. Oops. Oh, hold on just a second there. I may Now that I've got my 2 marks on each side, I'm going to use a tape measure here and just hook it directly on the back of my flange right there. Right on the back of my commode flange. And then I'm going to lay my board right back down where it belongs. And I can see exactly what I need to do. So to give myself that 1/4 inch, I'm actually going to go to 4 inches, okay? So I'm going to take this cut all the way over to 4 inches. Right there. Now, just like I did a while ago, I'm just going to use my hands to just kind of make somewhat of a circle there. Again, it ain't got to be perfect because you can always do a little bit of trimming if you need to. This simply gives me something to go by as I'm doing it. Okay. Let's see how that does now before I put my end piece on there. I'll get out of your way. And okay. So we can see that that's going to fit. That's going to be plenty good. Again, you usually have approximately 1 inch or more. Now the sides are going to be the least amount that cover, okay? The front and back, you're going to have really good coverage on your commode, okay? If you're going to be off anywhere, let it be on the front and back, not the sides. We know that that's going to work now. I'm going to go ahead and put this row completely together and then put it in as one board. Now, I'm going to end with a full plank. Let's see what we got here. And the full length is 47 and 5/8. So I'm going to knock a 1/2 inch off of that, and it's going to be 47 and 1/8. I knock a 1/2 inch off of that because I want a 1/4 on that end, a 1/4 on this end. Now we're going to use our scribe board again. I'm going to place this directly on top of my adjoining piece, keeping my 1/4 inch spacer down there. Make sure I'm all nice and flush. Again, I'm pushing this up against the bottom piece that's already installed, and then I'm pushing my top plank right up against it to make sure that it's exactly where I need it. Okay, now that that's good, I'm going to take my scribe board again, and I'll start at one end, and I'm just going to mark all the way down. Okay. Now we can place our last plank in. Right. I'm going to use a pull bar, and as I push in, I'm going to push down at the same time to finish that last row up. Okay. All right. There we have it. Okay, we have professionally installed a luxury vinyl plank flooring in a bathroom. We've got cut around the vanity, the commode, the bathtub, and around the door jambs. Everything is completely professional. We have the proper expansion around the complete perimeter of the room, so there's not going to be any buckling, any coming apart, or anything for many years to come. This floor is going to be here. By the way, this is a Mannington Duramax flooring, one of the absolute best vinyl plank products on the market. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it will help someone. Until next time, FBSB's out.